Hello and welcome to the channel. This build will be the Revell Lancaster B.III Dambusters. Cleaned up and glued together some of the interior parts, then gave everything a coat of NATO black diluted with lacquer thinner. Some parts were painted with cockpit green. About halfway through this build I did buy a new airbrush. No amount of cleaning would keep this working right for very long, and I normally just buy cheap airbrushes then throw it once it's no good. Quick touch up of any areas I painted over slightly, and that was the interior done. After a coat of NATO black, I masked up the inside of the fuselage and airbrushed on cockpit green. There was a lot of injector pin marks, but any which wouldn't be visible later I just left alone. After gluing the windows in place, I masked them off before gluing the fuselage together. I was worried when applying pressure I might pop the windows off, and doing that with a sealed fuselage would have been a nightmare. Before closing up the fuselage, I dry brushed a bit of aluminium on the inside. A couple of areas needed some filling and sanding, but nothing too bad just yet. I was expecting some filling and sanding when fitting the wings, but they weren't a bad fit at all. You get 2 Merlin engines in the kit, which I used, but only left one engine flap open later on, so I could have gotten away with just using one. Any engine flaps you want left open, you do have to cut out yourself. There was no gap between the lower bars, so I drilled this out and cut off any excess. Gave the whole model a coat of NATO black and realised even in 1/72 scale this model was a fair size. It wouldn't fit in the spray booth, so when I add the colour I just sprayed it on the workbench. I knew when painting the model it would show up any imperfections, but there was a lot more than what I thought. So I probably spent half a day filling and sanding and then scribing any lines back in I had sanded over. When testing out the new airbrush, I realised I forgot to put the liquid mask back on the top windows, so I did that. This dark earth mix was red-brown with a few drops of khaki and matte yellow. At first, when I mixed it and started painting, it looked fine. It wasn't until I finished and I looked at a few photos, realised it wasn't quite there. I wasn't happy with the colour. The plan was to play around with the ratios a little bit until getting the colour I was looking for. But the next day I was at the model shop anyway, picking up some thinners, so I grabbed a tub of Revell Dark Earth. I thought I'd play it safe, save time, plus this is the colour it does say to use in the instructions. After the camouflage pattern was masked off, I done the same thing with the green really. I started airbrushing on dark green too, but when I got to the end I wasn't too keen on the colour, so I ended up mixing dark green with a few drops of buff. You'll notice the shade is slightly different when I peel off the masking tape. It worked out okay. There was just a few areas where the green had marked the dark earth, but overall not too bad. I used a bit of light dust on the wheels, but I did tone this down later on as I thought I'd went a bit overboard. Looking at some photos online, some of these bouncing bonds had a bit of rust on the edges, so I used a rust wash, then toned it down with some enamel thinners. After a coat of gloss varnish, I used micro set and sol again for the decals, but I was quite disappointed with these. It didn't matter what I did. I even used some stronger products, but couldn't get rid of the cloudy look on the decals. I went round all the panel lines with a dark wash, and then once it had dried, used some enamel thinners to get rid of any excess. I didn't do a great deal of weathering on this. There was the dark wash on the panel lines, the light dust on the wheels, the steel paint chips, and black pigment for the exhaust stains. But after spending 1 hour per night for a month on doing this model, I was about ready to get this finished. The canopy was masked off, then painted, glued into place using Clearfix. Same with the front and back turrets, but super glue was used to keep these in place. Last thing I did by melting a sprue, pulling it apart to make the wires, brushed a bit of steel on, then fixed them in place with super glue. So that's the kit finished. It's not perfect, but presentable, I hope. The decals spoiled it for me a bit. What I've heard, I'm not the only one to have trouble with these particular decals. The kit, in my opinion, wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best either. Some parts weren't a great fit, but overall I did enjoy it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.